Hello, everyone. Welcome to After the Buzzer. This is the video series that we do in conjunction with our podcast, Game Tape Rewind, where we find a topic related to the main episode and dive in a little bit further, try to make things a little bit lighter and fun, and you get to see our beautiful smiling faces. My name is Chris Brown, joined as always by my good friend Eric Hastings. And in this episode of After the Buzzer, we're going to give a little bit of a primer on how to get into the NCAA tournament. And we know a lot of people out there are not basketball fans or have no idea what they're doing when it comes to watching the NCAA tournament. And it is our goal in this short video to give you some tips and pointers to how to make the NCAA tournament watching experience just a little bit more fun.
Yeah, March Madness is an awesome thing that, it doesn't really matter necessarily your interest usually in sports at all, especially basketball. But basically, if you were involved in any slight congregate setting around the month of March, whether it be your office, maybe you have a large family, or if you have one friend and you really just have maybe a slight gambling problem, you can really get into March Madness. And so step one is have at least one associate or friend, and really the more the merrier. I mean, think of an office space where everyone maybe goes in for a scratch off tickets or for the Powerball or something like that. This is a much more invested way to do something like that transpires over the whole month, and it brings your group together. So that's pretty much my pitch for anyone who likes to sit these kind of things out. Is I really think this is a thing for everybody.
One thing I learned a long time ago when I went to a horse racing track was that it doesn't really take much of an investment to get really into something. That day I went expecting to be kind of bored, but even if you put down $1, $2, or even if there's just pride on the line, having some sort of investment into it will make things a lot more entertaining for you. And for us. And to your point, you don't even really need to have an associate at this point because there are so many groups of common fans of, if you went to a school that's, either participating in the tournament or somebody who went there or you just wanted to be involved. You don't really need to know the people you're playing against, but it certainly does help. And having somebody to talk about the games with, watch the games with if you can, I think it makes the experience a lot more enjoyable because this is something that, we're talking about 64 games, 68 games, if you include the first four, over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. And that means a lot of games packed into not a lot of time. So if you have the option to do so, I'd recommend getting multiple screens. It will make following the games along a lot easier. One thing that I've learned and understand is that it's important to have the channels the games are on queued up in your previous channels, because otherwise you could spend 30 minutes trying to find true TV where some of the games will be. And to that end, the games will be on TNT, TBS, CBS, and True TV. They have been for the last 5+ years now. It's going to be the same this year. So write those down, find them on your TV guide, and thank me later.
Yep, and pretty much that's part of the organic stretch of actually watching the games. And to get set up, there's tons of sports sites who put out the brackets, and this is more than just sports. I mean, it's a pretty cultural thing. I mean, even when President Obama was in office, he would release his bracket, and it was a big reveal. He would do with ESPN. As you said, you don't necessarily have to have a friend. You can actually play against celebrities who have their own, bracket pools that you can join for free. And, if you win, maybe you beat, I don't know, Usher, and you get to, get a signed, microphone or something like that. I mean, it's at this point, it's everybody who has any kind of little bit of fame has their own bracket pool too. So it's really open season for everybody. We usually use Yahoo or ESPN just for sake of, convenience and ease, but I'm sure CBS Sports, there's a lot of places out there, but, make a profile, sign up. And then, that initial feeling once you see the bracket might be a little overwhelming, but really once you start getting in the weeds, and if you're a tinkerer or someone who really likes that game, you can spend maybe a little more time than you wanted.
Probably too much brackets. Time.
Yeah. And to that end, Chris, I think this is, the part here where, what is your piece of advice maybe for the public out there, especially those who aren't necessarily, maybe this is their first time,
Mhm.
how do you go through the bracket? What's a piece of advice you would give these people? We both have had moderate success. I think it's a good way to preface this that we're not experts by any means, but
Sure.
we've done okay, I guess.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be that there are very few people who know a lot about what they're doing enough to sway uh, their input and their informed opinions on this stuff. Even the people who are experts who pick brackets and do this for a living, you know, there's a reason why they play the games, and upsets happen all the time. Pick whatever method you enjoy the most when it comes to filling out your bracket, whether it's picking the mascots or picking what your favorite color is or personal connections. My friend's brother so and so went to this school and I liked him, or he was a jerk, so I'm not going to pick their school. I mean, outside of maybe the 1 versus 16 games where has only been one upset, the 215, they're obviously not as they're a little bit more successful over time, but anything beyond that, it generally ends up being close to a toss up. So, don't be overwhelmed. Don't feel like you're uninformed in this process, even if you are, because honestly, most of the people doing this are just as uninformed as you are.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the game is that you can be a college basketball nerd to the core, and you can play your 98-year-old, grandmother who has absolutely no interest in basketball, of course, unless your grandmother is Sister Jean from Loyola, who we talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
So go back and watch our podcast or listen so you can learn about Sister Jean. But outside of that, it really is, it's a fair game. If you'd like to put in the research, if you do have a little more of an analytical mind, there's a ton of tools out there that are not totally underwhelming that at least give you the history and trends of typically this seed makes it X far in this tournament. Only X amount of times has this seed made it this far. It might give you a chance to hedge your bets. I think general piece of advice is you might want to put, some of these, seeds that aren't typically as great. You want to pick one or two of those Cinderellas, as we call them, and push them a little far. That's the way your bracket stands out next to some other people. But might not want to break all conventions and pick no number one seeds to even get past, say, the Sweet 16 or something like that. So it's a little bit of hedging your bets and a little bit of luck. There's no doubt about that.
There's a lot of bit of luck. You don't undersell that because there's I believe it's Warren Buffett does his $1 billion perfect bracket challenge. And no one has ever even come close to picking a perfect bracket. And if anybody ever says they did, they're lying.
Yes. It's like the Da Vinci Code or something. I mean, it's remarkable.
If it helps, we will post our brackets once we have them finalized. And we'll make those public if you want to use those as a guide, either for or against your own picks. It's up to you. One method I don't recommend is coin flip, or if you do, just fudge it a little bit, because I did that once and you end up with 2 16 seeds in the final four and your bracket is ruined pretty much immediately. So, that I did just for fun, but if you have anything riding on it, I don't recommend that method, even if it does sound fun.
You're
so with
just
that,
asking for a lot of hurt. That's all Chris Brown's telling you. So just don't do that.
Yeah, not a lot of success down that path. So with that, we will say, and we hope you enjoy the NCAA tournament. Feel free to comment your best strategies below. And if you have anything, any methods that you like to use that are unconventional or interesting, we would definitely love to hear those. Be sure to check out the episode of Game Tape Rewind anywhere you get podcasts. Enjoy the NCAA tournament, and we will talk to you next time.